Welcome to a new hunt series that I'm starting, titled an Ode To. This series is going to look at elements of hunt that I think are underappreciated, or they might be controversial, but personally, I enjoy them. This first episode of an Ode To is going to be on solo Necromancer. For those of you watching at a later date, I am posting this video on Easter weekend, and I think it's appropriate to post it on Easter weekend because just like Jesus resurrected from the dead, the way solo Necromancer works in hunt is that it allows for players who are not squatted up, in other words, solos, to revive themselves upon being killed. Before we get any more on solo Necromancer, as a Christian and on this very holy weekend, I feel the need to say that Christ is King, and I would invite you to civilly put in the comments your experiences with Christianity, either positive or negative, if you're a Christian or not. I'd love to foster a conversation about my religion. I know I'm opening up a can of worms here maybe, but please, let's keep things civil. Just because I'm a Christian and you're not, doesn't mean you're a lesser human being than me. And just because if you're a Christian and I'm a Christian doesn't mean we are better than anyone else. At the end of the day, as Christians, the fundamental tenet of our belief is that our one identity should be under Jesus Christ. And all humans, we hope, can join us in finding identity within Jesus. If you want to reach out to me personally, I'll put my Discord in the description below. I'd love to have conversations with you, either positive or negative. I don't care. I'd love to have a discussion with you about Christ. The last thing I'll say on this is that to everyone watching, again, it doesn't matter what you believe. Jesus loves you no matter what you've done or no matter what you haven't done. No sin, no crime, no act is too much to be forgiven by God. And if you've been distant from Christianity and you've never seen it before, I invite you to look into it. And so I just want you to know, you will forever be loved by God. And unlike solo necromancy, when Jesus died and resurrected, that single act was a sacrifice of epic proportions to save all of us who find our identity and place our belief in him. So now let's discuss my ode to solo Necromancer. Just as a brief background, Necromancer was introduced in update 1.4.4 in October of 2020. When it was introduced, it only allowed for teams to revive their downed teammates at a distance. The developer's note with it being added stated that they liked the fact that it gave players a chance to turn a tricky situation around. They felt that without Necromancer, body camping and slow gameplay was eating up the game, and this allowed the game to move a little bit quicker. It's funny that one of the biggest criticisms of solo Necromancer is the exact opposite of this, which is that it slows the game down to a degree that we've never seen before. In the Devil's Moon event that closed out 2022, Necromancer was given a change that it would allow for solo players to revive themselves. In this event, the way solo Necromancer functioned was off the chains, including the fact that you could basically insta-revive yourself. After this event ended, in update 1.12 in March of 2023, Necromancer was adjusted to permanently allow for solos to revive themselves. Some things were balanced out, like the fact that now it took from 4 seconds to revive, it now took 10 seconds to revive, but more or less the perk remained the same as it was in the event. One thing that's funny just with this is the fact that this is basically a 1 year since we've had solo Necromancer as well. So we're also looking at the 1 year anniversary of solo Necromancer. Now I do enjoy a good Reddit posting here or there, and it is very obvious that the Reddit community does not like solo Necromancer. I don't know what the overall community thinks because I know Reddit is a small but very vocal batch of individuals, but Reddit really does not like solo Necromancer. What it boils down to often, the two biggest complaints being the first, that a team will kill a solo, the solo will revive and then kill the team. While this can often be reduced to skill issue, the other complaint is that it slows the game down because now when you kill a solo, you have to burn his body, camp the body, and wait for him to burn out. Otherwise, there is always a risk that the solo could come back. So, how would I respond to the two biggest complaints? Well, point number one, as I already alluded to, is a skill issue. A solo who is reviving, or frankly anyone who is being revived from Necro, is at a huge disadvantage, and especially in the solo situation where you have a team, it feels almost comical that a solo could ever win that type of fight. For the solos that do play with Necromancer, they can attest to this. It feels like 9 out of 10 times where you Necromancer revive, you are killed. And so to anyone that begins talking about how solos shouldn't have the chance to come back against a team that already killed them once, I challenge you to play some games with solo Necromancer. It's a lot more difficult than you think it is, and it might make you look at yourself in the mirror about whether or not you are as good at the game as you think you are. Since Necromancer has been out this past year, I think it's happened to me maybe 4 or 5 times where a solo that I've previously killed has caused me to die or has killed me directly. And in any of those times, it's been pretty easy to look in the mirror and say that I was the one who had a skill issue. The other point about the game slowing down due to teams having to watch a body burn out is also a pretty weak argument. One of the perks of Hunt is that you never truly know if you're alone in a lobby. In fact, the player base often defends and enjoys this aspect of the game. Every once in a while, a suggestion will get brought up to speed up the game and extraction if you're the only person left in the lobby. When this gets shot down inevitably, one of the most consistent reasons it gets brought up is that the community likes the feel of being on edge and not knowing if they're alone in the lobby. Fundamentally, this claim should not and cannot work with the same argument of having to stare at a body to watch it burn out because you're afraid they might come back. It's normal to want to prevent them from coming back, but if you appreciate feeling on edge, then you should be fine just lighting a body on fire and continuing with your game. Even more so than that, it doesn't take very long for a body to burn out. I don't know the exact time, but it can't be more than a minute or two. And so this argument just feels really weak. As someone who plays a lot of duos, trios, and solos, I just don't think it takes very much time. You don't have to look at a body for very long. Typically, once a solo is down, you get a free kill because they will try to revive once. And again, if you watch the body for like 30 seconds, guaranteed they're going to revive in that time period. Then after that, they might take a little bit longer to, which again, is why you light them on fire. And so these arguments, I feel, are just kind of weak. However, these arguments are not invalid because they do come from somewhere. Maybe it's a skill issue, maybe it's something else, but I do think there might be a fundamental flaw within the game somewhere that is making these people feel like this. And so, just to address what I would consider the 3 root causes of this necromancy complaint, some people argue that Necromancer should be removed, period. Personally, I can see this argument. Necromancer in no case speeds up the game. It doesn't speed up the game in duos, trios, or solos. Necromancer, all it serves to do is slow down the game. So if you look at what the devs' original goal was for it, I don't think they achieved it. I don't think it speeds up the game. That being said, I still don't think they should remove it. The other issue, however, I do think is worth looking at, which is the MMR issue. Solo Necromancer is used to D-rank, and the problem with Hunt is that it's very easy to drop MMR, and it's very difficult to gain MMR. And so for those of you that don't know, as a solo, you get put into a lobby with a lower MMR than you, because there's a balance issue between you being a solo versus teams. And so people will D-rank their MMRs from 5 stars, for example, to 3 stars, and then they'll get put in a lobby with 2 stars because of the solo modifier, and this is an issue. However, this is very easily fixed by just adjusting how easy it is to gain and lose MMR, and to make it easier to gain MMR and to hold MMR, especially in the 5 and 6 star ranks where it's exceptionally easy to lose that MMR. I am sympathetic to new players who don't understand how Necromancer works, and so hopefully this helps to protect them. However, I want to be clear, if you're going to play the game, you have to learn how the game works, and one of these core tenets is Necromancer right now. That's a huge aspect of the game. And so frankly, to these new players, if they can't understand this concept, then the game just might not be for them, because this is a concept that is core to the game, and it's not just something you take out because new players can't understand it. Just like banishing the boss, finding clues, the gunplay, the positioning, anything else in the game. This is a skill floor issue and is a basic thing that should be understood if you're going to play this game. The last issue is that the multiple events that Hunt has constantly give players new ways to get their health back through restoration. If there is one area of the core gameplay that I would go after, it was this. I think Crytek needs to look for new things to add to the events and to stop giving players restoration. Personally, I can understand the frustration of allowing a solo to get their health back super easily. However, this is not in the base game, and these are only relegated to events. That being said, I think there are different tools that can be given to the packs within the events that don't involve free health back. To close out this video, I'm going to talk about why I like Solo Necromancer. All the clips that are in this video are achieved in games where I used a Necromancer as a solo. There are games in which one team camped so long that I wiped out every other team in the lobby and then proceeded to die to this team that camped the game for 30 minutes. I was able to solo Necromancer and allow me to win the game, which I think anyone could agree I was the quote-unquote rightful winner of that game. The team that camped for 30 minutes with bomb lances should never have won that game. By a misplay that I made, they could have won if Solo Necromancer wasn't in the game. However, if I would have been playing duos, they never would have won. Because first of all, my teammate and I could have much easily pushed into their building that they were camping in. And secondly, if I went down, as I did in this example, my teammate could have simply revived me. You are disadvantaged as a solo player, and it's more than just these detractors of Necromancer think. What is a solo supposed to do when they're playing against a team that refuses to leave a building? What is a solo supposed to do if he's playing against a team that rushes him because he's a solo? There are aspects of this game that make it harder for solo, and so that's why I think the MMR adjustment is still fair, where solos find people slightly lower ranked than them, and that's why I think Necromancer helps to even that playing field. Without Necromancer, you are not allowed to make any mistakes as a solo. And so in that aspect, it actually does speed up the game. I think because of how much slower the game gets on the reviving end, the net difference is not much of a speed up. In fact, I think it does get slightly slower, or it equalizes out. However, before Necromancer, playing this game as a solo, which solos played this game before and after Necro, but playing this game as a solo was a lot more campy and a lot slower, because there was no second chance. I also think Necromancer does add for some very interesting combat situations. Sometimes having a player revive in the middle of a fight that you weren't expecting can be frustrating, but I think I have to appreciate that change that it makes in the combat. I think Crytek's goal of allowing a team to get out of a tricky situation actually was achieved with Necromancer in general, and of course, it helps with solo Necromancer. In a team fight, having killed 2 teams and having one of them pop back up because guess what, they were solos, is a very interesting dynamic to a fight. If you die, it can be frustrating, but again, had you just burned the body in the first place, they probably would not have revived. And if they pop up in the middle of a team fight while you're distracted, and so you couldn't watch the body, they should be pretty easy to kill anyway in that instance. I think Hunt is at its best when gunfights lose predictability and descend into madness and into chaos. And so I think Necromancer contributes to the chaos perfectly. I think it might be the biggest contributor to all the chaos. And so again, when Hunt is for me at its most intense is when people are dying left and right, gunshots are going off left and right, and the fights last for extended periods of time. And I think Necromancer, both for teams and for solos, is a big reason why that happens. So, solo Necromancer, what do you think about it? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Is Necromancer a perk that needs to get removed from the game? Or is it a factor that mixes up the combat and adds some flair to it compared to what previous Hunt was? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And of course, leave a comment below in the comments giving me your take. Ultimately, the community might be divided on this for the foreseeable future. However, my take is that Necromancer is good for the game, and that's why I'm dedicating this ode to solo Necromancer.